Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. I am Chris, and this is the world famous Cool Cars with Chris, man. And on today's episode of the show, well, earlier today, Courage and I met up at the Scripps Ranch Cars and Coffee. It was such an amazing time. You'll hear about that experience. And while we were there, well, check this out. We encountered a bunch of Dodge Vipers. It was like Viper Day or something. So a guy is there with a Dodge Viper he picked up in, I think it was a 2000 Dodge Viper. He actually had the window sticker of the car on the car. We're going to go over that. Plus, you remember that 370Z I used to have, the Nissan Z? I kind of love that car. When I sold that car, the guy who bought it actually could not drive a stick shift. And he told me, I couldn't believe this. He actually told me he was learning how to drive a stick shift based on using a video game. What? And then topping it off, if General Motors decides to put up a Ford GT, a Ferrari, and their Hummer EV head-to-head in a hot, quick race for their marketing, well, since it's GM running the show, I wonder which one of those vehicles took the lead. Well, you'll find out on this episode. Let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the world famous Cool Cars with Chris, going around the world and around the city, meet each other. Hey, Courage, how you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. No, I mean, yeah, we can probably talk about it more, but it's good to hang out at some car events and get out in the city and in the world there. So, I'm doing good. Always good to get on and talk some cars.
You came on down to San Diego here, and you met me at the Scripps Ranch Cars and Coffee. What was your, what'd you think of that Cars and Coffee? I know you've been to a lot of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was cool. It was, I heard about the Point Loma ones that they were doing, which I don't know if they're really doing those as much anymore. And so Andy, I think, is one of the guys that puts them on. I got a chance to chat with him a little bit, and his NSX is just like,
that's a piece of art, man. That's not even like a car. It's like something should be like an action movie.
Yeah. That thing is transcended, just this himself. Like, people just know the car. And so, I've seen it there and then seeing some familiar, other cars that I've seen throughout. It definitely was a little bit closer knit of a vibe than some of the Cars and Coffees.
What do you mean by that?
It really kind of felt like, it wasn't cliquey. Like we kind of talked about that, where like you can kind of go to these events and feel like there's little cliques here and there, and like it's hard to kind of, if you're a newcomer, it's hard to kind of feel like you're welcomed unless you kind of breach your way into it. But it just felt like everybody was like, the people that knew each other, obviously you could tell, but like they were just very welcoming, and it was just really like, this is just like a highlight of theirs. It's just getting out and having this Cars and Coffee. And I don't know, I just felt welcome. Like, there's ones where I go to where I feel like it's a little harder to kind of get yourself in the mix a little bit more.
Really?
And, here it was just like, it felt pretty instant. So, I mean, Escondido Cars and Coffee, kind of the same. Like, those guys are pretty cool.
I gotta get up there. That's my next tour, is head up to Escondido and see Mike up there and the crew up there.
Their crew is really welcoming as well. Like, big shout out to them. But I have gone to some that's maybe, they are, I wouldn't say that like people are rude or anything. I'm not going to put that out there, but it's just that, it's maybe a little harder for people to come out of their shell and, really start to like, if they don't really know that person personally, to really kind of get people out of their shell. I've been to ones where it's a little bit more like that, but I didn't get that vibe here. So it was a fun day for sure.
Yeah, I have a good time with go up there and seeing Andy with his NSX, and I always greet him. We always say hi and chat for a minute, and then he goes out and sees and talks to everybody else too, and he gets his little videos and stuff. And he told me today that sweeping shot he always gets of the entire parking lot. I'm like, how do you do that? I always thought like he went on the roof of the business, but it turns out I didn't pay attention to this, but I guess there's a second story balcony for businesses on the second floor, and a little like balcony with a stairwell that goes up there. I'm like, oh, that totally makes sense. You go up there, take shots, people up there today. Yeah, because he showed me that. I was like, okay, I totally forgot about that. So, but yeah, I like to go around and take pictures. I didn't take pictures of everything. I try to, but I kind of wonder if you start to see the same cars at these events going every week you go or every time you go, do you feel weird or do you even take the same pictures again? Because it's the same car you took pictures of last time you were here. Do you even take pictures again or what do you do with that?
It depends. Like, funny enough, like I don't always. For me, with the cars and coffee that are going on here in San Diego, I'm usually not going to the same one every week. And I know they only do those. I think theirs is only the third Sunday of the month, right?
Dude, honestly, God, I have no idea. Yeah. I just see what he posted. He said he tags me.
And you're just like, yeah,
he'll
I'm
tag
just
me,
come up.
and he'll say, "Hey, you coming to this thing?" And I say, "Oh, what is it?" And I'll send me the thing. I say, "Okay, I'll check and make it."
Yeah.
That's how I know about these things. They tag me, and by the way, shout out if you're listening right now. Tag me in something or message me directly on social media or something like that. That's how I know about these things. Otherwise, I forget. I don't keep a calendar.
Yeah.
So
because Chris will get out there. Him. It was cool meeting your son, by the way, too. But you guys were out there, old dark 30. Like I showed up,
and
almost
we
like
got
the
there,
little,
we got there. There was still like no parking, and so
Really?
that's the thing. Like we get up there like right after 7:00. I'm thinking like, okay, we'll get there. It might be some room to park up front, whatever. It's like no parking anywhere. So I'm like, where are we going to park at? And there's the thing about parking is that when you roll up in the cars and coffee, all eyes are on you. And so, especially roll through the middle of the crowd, like middle where everyone's parked at. And I'm thinking like, if I like gotta like look cool and back this thing up without hitting anything or, making sure I'm not like totally crooked in the parking spot, And so I'm trying to like play it cool. And the Mustang now has the backup camera installed in there. So you can see when we back it up in there. It's more of a guide than it's like more modern backup cameras have like the sensors and the beeping and like those kind of things. This is kind of more like a reference guide than anything else. And so I pull up in there. I'm like, we're going to park at. I saw the row of Mustangs. Like, it'd be kind of cool to park next to the Mustangs. But I'm like, I don't know. They're probably their own little clique. Speaking of cliques, they're probably their own little clique with the Shelbys. And I'm like, yeah, we'll just park it over here on this side over here. But it did get bigger, a lot of bigger crowd out there. And Jacob loves going out there. And he woke up early this morning. He woke up before I did and get ready to go. And so we headed out there, made coffee. We headed out there, and it was kind of it was fun getting over. This is not that far from the house, so it doesn't take us long to get over there. And so we get over there, and then so we park, and then we start walking around and checking the different cars out. And I was drinking my coffee, and I wasn't really taking a ton of pictures. So speaking of pictures, as I said, like if you've already seen the car, like there's some cars there I've seen before, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I already took pictures of it.
Like that purple Audi R8. Like I see that one there pretty often. Obviously, Andy's NSX. Like he's always
that
there.
Thing too. And of course, his buddy with the Lamborghini. I talked to him at the Miramar Mesa one for a long time, and he was there, and I saw him, met him, and some of the same cars were there I've seen before. So it's kind of cool to see them. But then for me today, my son pointed this out because I asked him, what did you like from seeing, the show today? Which cars like really stood out for you? And for him, he said it was all the Vipers we saw today.
Yeah, it was a little bit. I think that was probably like the outside of the Mustangs, outside of you guys count in that too, but outside of like the Shelby row and then the Mustangs, like the Vipers were definitely probably like the second most prominent car out there. And you had really like a good representation of generations out there too, like an early first gen, a second gen, a third gen. It was pretty cool to see those out.
The one guy, I was talking to him about his Viper, and he let me sat in the driver's seat. And so I got it. You want to get inside? I said, yeah, sure, I'll get inside. So I got inside the thing. I think it's cramped, by the way. It is super tight in those things. I mean, you are snug like a blanket wrapped around you real tight,
Yeah.
And so I'm in there. I'm like, this thing's really tight in here. There's not much room to breathe around. You can't drive with your knees like I like to do sometimes. But no, just kidding. But there's not a lot of room to do that. So it's pretty snug. It's really tight. And the guy said he had it since I think he said he had it for 20-something years. He's had the car. So he's had it pretty much fairly new. And he had the window sticker, I remember. So I took a picture of the window sticker.
I remember seeing that because that was the gray one with the white stripe, right? Yeah.
Right.
Like you could definitely tell that it's a driver's car in a good way, but you can tell that like, you know, he drives the car a lot. You know, I love seeing the window sticker because it's
do you know what
really...
want to know what the retail price of that vehicle is? I'm pulling it up right now. The retail price of the sticker, according to the window sticker, which he had, it said it was a 2000 model and it is $90,000.
Wow. Okay. But adjusting for inflation, was that put you at like 150-ish?
Dude,
or so?
you couldn't even find them. Like, I knew the last generation of those things when they were made, they were well over $100,000. And according to this window sticker here, I'm looking at the very top left, the base price of the vehicle is $72,000.
Oh wow! So 20 grand in options.
Let's see, destination charge. What's the most biggest charge they had on here? Optional equipment, the ACR package for $10,000.
Yeah, it's an ACR. Now that right there is a big. That's like I didn't actually realize that it was an ACR until I like peeked under the hood and saw the ACR emblem like kind of imprinted on the little vinyl part of the hood, but. That makes a lot of sense now.
Well, would you like to know what your $10,000 pays for according to this window sticker?
Oh yeah, no, I'd be very curious.
Your 10 optional equipment. It says ACR package, wheels, 18-inch aluminum, silver, suspension, competition, radio, delete, no radio.
Radio delete, yeah.
So they charge you to remove your radio
to take away stuff. Yep.
Check that. Oh, and heater, no alt. Oh, must be air conditioning. It's spelled AIT air conditioning. Must be air conditioning. It says no air conditioning. Fog lamps, delete. Dash plaque, air cleaner, low restriction. It must be some kind of like. Is that type of like the filter?
That's probably no. Well, they probably have like a it's performance, like a performance air filter at that point. Like that's probably like their way of saying that. Like. That's why we do like cold air intakes, for example, because it's less restrictive than like those air boxes that you usually get for a stock car.
Oh, they have a gas guzzler tax, by the way.
Oh,
$3,000.
It's the window sticker had to have said like how much like the rated like EPA like miles per gallon was.
Just guess what the highway rated miles per gallon on a Dodge Viper.
Highway had to be 12.
No, it's pretty good actually.
Really?
For highway. I'm not talking city, I'm talking highway here.
Okay. Well, what were we like 16, 17?
My truck gets about the same as this. 21 miles a gallon.
Wow, are you serious? I'm actually pretty impressed by that actually.
But what's weird though is that for example, my pickup truck, it's rated at 22 highway. I think it's 15 or 16 city, right? Because it has a 10 speed. So it can kind of get away with that.
Yeah.
My other truck had a 6-speed and it got like 21 highway. Same motor. Now this is like an 8-liter V10. 21 highway, which is similar to my truck. But what gets me is the difference between city and highway is such a big gap. The city is 11.
Yeah. Okay. So which that's still not as bad as I thought. Like that was, and to be honest, like something with that, like a Viper with like it probably has just crazy amounts of torque. So you can probably be churning like 1,800 RPMs and be just golden, like with just torque and not have to worry about if you have to accelerate, like you can still move past folks pretty easily in 6th gear, and so. I'm not that surprised at that split, but I definitely thought it was going to be single digit.
This car and my Z have something in common. I'm reading the specs right now. And the thing they have in common is the size of the fuel tank, because it says it only has a 19-gallon fuel tank.
Okay. Yeah, because your Z had about the same as like my M35. Like they have about the same size gallon. It's like 18 or something like that.
And what's funny is that the new Mustang we bought, well, I guess used Mustang, is that it only has a 16-gallon tank. And you seem to burn through fuel fairly quickly, I noticed. You're talking a 4-liter V6 engine. It's fairly good size. It's a truck engine rather than a truck in a motor. It's not really a gas sipper, really. And so having a 16-gallon, I noticed needle starts to drop fairly quickly when you use it. It doesn't cost lots to fill up because you're only filling up 16 gallons. But and I
just guess how much the end. The end's
like 12 gallon? Is it less than 12 gallon?
Yeah, it's right at 12 and a half. Yep.
That's it.
So so you go through that. You go through it pretty quick. If you really were like hyper miling it on the highway, you could probably get about like 330 miles of range. But
right,
driving city and everything. Like I probably would be good to see like 280 like on a tank. So. Even a 4-cylinder, a 4-cylinder turbo that is rated at like, I can get up to about 31 to 32 miles per gallon on the highway, but it's just such a small tank that it just burns through it super quick. So,
well, I remember I used to go to Vegas a lot and get all the way up there in my other truck, even this new truck. Although I did one Vegas trip in my new truck, but I've done multiple, like many, many, many trips in my older truck I had, which had the same Coyote V8. Smaller tank. It only had a 26 gallon, and I was able to go all the way up there on a full tank. Have like a quarter tank when I got there, enough to drive around, get gas, come back. So it was always one tank up, one tank back, and it was good. If we take the Mustang to Vegas, which I'm planning to do, I gotta think about gas stops now because I never used to think about gas stops when I went to Vegas. I used to go there one shot because that small tank is not going to make us there in one sitting. We'll probably have to get gas probably on maybe Barstow or wherever you get gas at to make it the rest of the way. It's crazy to think about. I never really thought about doing that, but because gas is
this is almost cheaper. Like range anxiety. Oh,
it kind of is because gas is so much cheaper in Vegas than it is here in California. Like maybe 30, 50 cents difference. And so if you can make it there on one tank, great, and then fill up in Vegas and come back, great. And that's what I used to do.
But if you still got to fill up in California,
right? That's a given. That's a given. You have to leave town, of course. You have to fill up here, of course. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like at least have to fill up twice in California.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, like you got to account for 2 California fuel ups, and then you probably you get the benefit of the Vegas fill up on the way back. But
it's still have to fill up again in California to get back again.
That's
so
true.
It's like 4 fill ups in California, 1 in Vegas. Kind of a thing. But I want to take the car out there to Vegas, and I think it's going to be a smooth ride. And you saw the car. What are your impressions of like the interior?
Oh man, yeah. No, I'm glad you asked, and yeah, just a big point on that is it was really cool to see the car in person. Like the thing is definitely a time capsule. The outside is just in great condition. We saw another one, and I know you probably talk about it. We saw another one that was not as in the best condition.
Dude,
the guy loved it.
That blue one, right? The blue you're talking about?
The blue one, yeah.
Yes, that was an 09, he said.
Really? So newer than your guys's, yeah.
Right, but he had some upgrades. He upgraded the fog lamps and upgraded the wheels. They were because it's not a GT, it's a V6. He's only had it a few years.
Did he have an exhaust or no?
I asked him about that, and he said he wasn't sure because the previous owner did something to it, but he wasn't sure. And when he fired it up, it didn't sound super loud. It didn't really sound loud at all, to tell you the truth. I don't know what they did to it.
Maybe might have did like a muffler. I wouldn't think a muffler delete because on V6s when you do a muffler
they get loud.
Delete, like it gets real loud, and it didn't sound that loud. So
it depends what he did. He could just have a tip or something at the end, or I don't even know. You could Pep Boy special or something kind of a thing. Who knows? So in fact, I was looking into doing an exhaust on the Mustang. That's the next thing. Well, not next thing, but it's a thing we want to do to the car. I know Jacob's really excited to do all kinds of like upgrades. He's really looking at intakes and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like talking about that.
He told me today, he's like calculating like all the different power you're going to get from these upgrades, which is what you do, right? And you think about modifying your car. You think, hey, well, if I modify this, adds this much power. If I modify that, adds this much power. And I'm thinking, Jacob, why don't you worry about the power you have right now?
like contain the power you have now.
Right.
Yeah.
Why don't you worry about driving first? Why don't you worry about getting like your license and figuring out the vehicle you have right now before you start getting upgrades? I know you're going to do
Hey
upgrades.
man, that is the car guy. That's the car guy in them, though, because that's exactly how we are. Like in that exact case, like I don't even have my license, but I need to make sure this ride is moving. So,
Right. We want more power. I say it's probably going to blow you away once he starts driving and gets like on the road and starts using the vehicle, like actually not in the parking, but actually using the vehicle. Just being it, it's probably going to blow him away. But that's your first car. I mean, he's going from nothing to that. The same thing happens. It's all about perspective too. Like if you drive, like I drove like horrible slow cars, and then you get into something like even a V6 Mustang, it feels like a rocket ship.
Yeah,
it depends what you're driving. If you're driving like a V8 Mustang the entire time, and you go into something like a Honda Civic, you're like this thing's slow as a turd, or whatever. But other way around, it feels fast. So it's all about perspective, really. When I drove that Z that other day, I drove that Z, and it felt fast. It felt, quick. I mean, I haven't driven one in a while, but it felt good. It felt snappy. Felt great.
Yeah.
It felt really fun. And a car like that, I can see just drive around for fun, not for something you want to use for like road trips, really, or something like that, or whatever.
It just, so it's just purposeful when you're in it. Like you're in it for a reason type thing.
That's what it was for my Z. Like I never took my Z anywhere far. I think the furthest I ever took my Z, now I'm trying to think, I never took it to Vegas. I'm trying to think if I even took it to LA. I may have, I may not have. I don't think I even did.
You're different from me, man. Because I was a college kid, and it was obviously my only car. But my first like huge trip in the car was like driving between here and the Bay Area, the whole 9-hour drive between here and in the Bay Area, and then coming back from the Bay Area, I drove up the one coming back to San Diego, and that was a 11-hour drive or something like that. And I mean, that's like, no, it's just like the one, if the one is like the coast, like literally, so me and my buddy, cause he went to UC Santa Barbara, and we were like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to just kind of take the one up instead of like taking the 101 or the 5. And it took us about 6 to 7 hours to get from the Bay Area to Santa Barbara. And then I had another like 3.5, 4 hour drive from Santa Barbara to San Diego. And we were all in, we were in this, my 300ZX that like had a radio that would overheat after we drove like for 2 hours. And, we drove with the T-tops off, for probably like a good like 3 or 4 hours of the trip. And, these are the kind of things you can do like when you're younger. I could not
you got time to kill, man.
I didn't have anywhere to be or anything,
right.
anywhere.
If you got
to
be at work in a few hours, and it's kind of tricky to do that. But yeah, the Z, like I always pictured it as being like a fun, like I took it to work a lot. Towards the end, I did commute in the car a lot. The early days I had it, it was basically my weekend fun car to like cruise around the weekends, maybe like, do coastal trips and run around and that kind of stuff. Nothing major really. And then I did take it to work a few times and things like that. It went back and forth. And then for a while it became like I was taking the car to work a lot, parking the truck. And then I was kind of going back and forth. So the truck was like the weekend car, and the Z became like the commuting car for a while, back and forth to work. It kind of went back and forth like that. I kind of try to balance the miles. I didn't go crazy miles on my new truck and that kind of stuff. So I'm going back and forth. But I can see the Mustang we have. I can feel like that'll be more of a cruiser to Vegas road trip kind of a car. Now it's not super, super plush and comfortable. It's not like a big, Cadillac or couch or whatever. It's not like that at all. But the Z just feels like, I don't know, something I want to just drive around in like fun country road kind of driving. Not the, I'm going to drive to LA in the Z kind of driving, especially hit traffic with a stick shift. That's got to suck.
It's a pretty, it seems like a pretty solid in between from say going in like the Z versus going in your truck, where like, it's less maybe purposeful than the Z, but it's a little bit more, fun but maybe fun to drive than the truck, like on a long drive. Like you can, if you get some twisties, like you can maybe enjoy it a little bit here and there. Like,
well, that's what I should do. I used to take my car out, and that video I just posted on YouTube was taken in the back hills behind my old house. And I used to take it back there, and after I got the exhaust done, I wanted to, check it out there, take a video of it.
It sounded awesome, by the way, dude. Took me back to vibe, but watching that clip was fun.
The system I had on there was 2.5-inch piping from the cat's back, removing all the piping from the cat's back, the original stock, everything, get it out of there. And so they built a custom system, 2.5-inch pipe coming right off both cats, going into an X pipe, which cut it in half, full dual exhaust, all the way back, 2 mufflers in the very back, kind of like pinned up, tucked up at an angle, because the way the body was, the way the original muffler was like this weird, like, I don't know, kind of like sideways shaped muffler that 2 pipes came in, 2 pipes came out. So like a single muffler with 2 pipes coming in, 2 pipes coming out. So they yanked all that out and made 2 separate mufflers with 2 separate pipes. And so coming in, and I wanted the tips to look like they could be stock, but they weren't stock. I didn't want these big, gaudy, like, look at me, like exhaust tips. I wanted something that looked like it could be stock, but it wasn't stock. And so I went with that direction, did the whole thing. Ed Hanson's did the whole thing right there. And like I said, when he backed it out of the bay, and then he like gave it a few revs before he put the parking brake. I was like, holy crap, this sounded so great, so great. And so that's what gives that really nice sound to it. And it doesn't sound like, even though it's a VQ, like I don't think, watching that video, like I don't think it quite sounds like a VQ. Does it sound like a VQ to you? Because VQs have that weird sound, you know what I'm saying?
When you do, like, I mean, you did it the right way, because I think you need that X pipe to really kind of make sure that it doesn't get super droney and really like, kind of high pitched shrieky, which is like a weird word to say, but a lot of inclinations with people with these are just to go straight piped or just
Tomei
like
exhaust.
Tomei, the kind of going Tomei exhaust, and you really need some type of scavenging. It's like what the X pipe is doing is kind of like, diverting, a lot of this like noise, like to kind of condense it a little bit, but still give you a really balanced tone coming out.
They say it does give more of an exotic sound with the X pipe versus an H pipe, because H pipe gives you more like a muscle car sound. That's right.
Yeah. And when it really gets like overly raspy and that kind of deal, it just really, like, V6s are inherently kind of like that. Like, my Z, I did do an X pipe, but with the older like V6s especially, like it was real easy to make those just way too loud. And even that car was probably like, I couldn't do it to like now in the present, it was too loud, but it still had a clean tone. Like it wasn't like
that's it.
Overly like raspy, and like you didn't hear like, as you go up in the rev range, like it didn't sound like just a whole bunch of vibration. Yeah. like tin can vibration. Like it definitely still had like a clean tone. And you definitely, like when I was listening to that video, I was like, man, like that was a really good sound. Like it was a good tone overall.
I miss it so much, man. Let me tell you. And it was such a thrill to drive. And it was even more of a thrill to have other people drive it while I was sitting shotgun. I let the guy who bought it obviously drive it. He was a little clumsy because he was just learning how to drive a stick. Funny side note on that, the dude told me that he was learning how to drive a stick shift playing video games. I kid you not. I kid you not.
No,
I'm like, are you sure you can drive a stick? Yeah, I'm learning on whatever. He had a simulator. Or, I don't know what he had. A video game, something or other he had. And I'm like,
well, I gotta say this, because I'm like, I was big into video games and like the I was into sim racers. I didn't have like a full on sim like setup, but I did have like the race wheel with the stick shift, gear shift.
You have the pedals
the clutch
and stuff
and
too?
everything. I did have the pedals and everything, and like the gear, like the 6-speed, H shifter and everything, and that, like, unless he was playing, like there were some games that did kind of dial it in to the point where like you really did kind of get like,
but you don't
clutch
feel
travel,
anything though, do you?
But no,
plastic.
you don't get any feeling from it. And even like when it comes to clutch travel, like it's like almost kind of like an on-off switch in a lot of video games where you even if you're just pressing the clutch a little bit, like that's clutch on. And if you take your foot off, like obviously that's clutch off. Real clutch is not like that at all. Like you have to like.
But could you
kinda
practice
know.
with that to make it similar to figure out how to drive a stick shift?
Like I said, it depends. Like certain games, at least like in the early, like the late 2000s, 2010s, like they started to find ways to sort of simulate what it really is like to sort of engage a clutch and let out and give it like a little bit of gas so that you don't stall and different things like that. But majority of the time, like it's again, like if you treat if somebody got into a car for the first time driving stick and they treated it as an on-off switch with the clutch, they'd stall all the time.
Yeah, I think he did stall. Now I think about when we were driving around, or he was kind of let the clutch out, and he was kind of like couldn't figure out the play with the throttle and the clutch. He was kind of like jumping, do the jump people do, like you're trying to get it going, kind of a thing.
That's all I could imagine. Is like the your video game impression of how a clutch works is totally different from how it works in reality.
And it's hard. It's hard to really get practice on a clutch these days because it's hard to find one.
Yeah. I was wearing a shirt around today, and I was wearing a jacket, so you probably didn't see it while I was out there. But I was wearing a shirt around today that says it basically has like a 6-speed like gear shift pattern in the middle, and it says endangered species around it.
Oh, nice.
Because it really is. It's a dying breed, to have people, have choosing the manual options of cars, let alone the amount of manual options there are for cars these days.
Right. I think it's. I mean, the video game thing probably helps get the motion down of like what to do, what your foot does and your hand does, kind of a thing. But I think there's something to actually feeling the clutch pedal, pressing it, feeling the gear go into gear, feeling the vibrations of it, kind of like grinding it, pulling it out early, forgetting to use the clutch pedal, trying to grab it and trying to put it with another clutch pedal and things like that.
And every car is different. Like, every car is like, kind of grab point is different. That's like some cars do really have a very linear clutch that like, as you let out, like the car's grabbing gradually. And like some cars have like a real, like, it really is kind of like an on-off switch up until a certain point. Like, you might bring it up like a good amount and it really isn't like letting the clutch out very much, but then you have a grab point randomly somewhere like in the middle of that. And it's actually kind of like that in the end where it's kind of hard to get used to. And I've been driving that car for 3 years now, and I actually had a random situation literally yesterday where I stalled at a light. And that hasn't happened to me in forever.
It happened to me a couple times in the Z2. I get it. It's okay.
Yeah. But I did have a nightmare like the night of after, like like as if that did that really happen? Did I really stall like in reality? But
the worst part is if you do that at Cars and Coffee. If you're revving your car and you're like backing in, like car show parking it, making it look all super cool, and then it stall it.
Yeah,
you're like, oh man.
Yeah,
it's like and you like act cool, like what I meant to do that.
Yeah.
It's something cool. Like, yeah.
And then you just hope that like it starts again. Like
it should. It should.
I've seen some older cars where like, yeah, that happens and you stall out with an older car and then you're sitting there trying to restart it now and it's not wanting to crank over for some reason. Like,
oh man, if that was the case, if I did that at Cars and Coffee with my cool classic car, I'd just hang out until everybody left and then try to like fix it.
Yeah, just leave it where it sat for a minute.
And don't be the cool guy trying to like, rev it and trying to get out of there. And like, it's one thing I have not experienced yet going to all these Cars and Coffee. I wonder if it's going to happen is the ultimate, like, check me out. Let me do a burn rubber and slam into a tree.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully I've not like been actually physically at an event where it's something like that's happened too. And so, as much as like it'd be like, man, like that, that really happened like right here in front of me. Like I really don't want to be around for it because those are the kind of things that, kind of get events shut down at the end of the day. It's like when people do something like that. And
also I bet the guy who
property
did
damage and
is probably so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And so like feels so horrible that he probably is emotional, highly emotional at that moment.
Yeah.
And when somebody's highly emotional, you don't know what they're going to do.
No, I've seen clips of like people where they, they clip something or whatever, and then they still try to drive off with like a wheel missing or something. Like
because there's like, screw, I got to get out of here. But I'm saying like,
I got to get out of here.
But if somebody did a burnout at the Cars and Coffee today, right, and they slammed into a tree or a building or whatever, and everyone like runs over their phones and starts filming a thing. Oh my gosh. And the guy, whoever gets out, it could be a girl, not being discriminative here, but it could be a girl too. Who knows? The person gets out of the car and they're super emotional, super heated, super pissed off. And then they're just like, and people are filming and like laughing and like, oh my gosh, whatever, and a lot of that stuff. You can imagine the emotional stress that person would be in that moment, that they could like start throwing punches at the first person nearby.
Oh yeah,
nearby.
Yeah, you just never know. For
and
sure.
I could totally see that happening. And I don't want to be in that path. And something. So imagine that happening where the guy starts throwing punches, hits somebody, the guy hits him back, and then the other, and it's going to start something. And then next thing you know,
whole deal. Yeah.
Right. And then we're on the news or whatever. And the next thing you know, it's on social media. It's not our cool post of cars. It's social media post saying, "Oh, cops are involved in a crash in a fight at this Cars and Coffee today."
And how much that will be generalized by the general public after that. It's like, oh, you ever go to these car events, you're gonna like end up getting in fights with people and end up on the news, and like that's just gonna be the general consensus of car culture now at this point. Right. Well, just it's a slippery slope.
It is. I mean, people get emotionally heated for almost anything. Sporting events, for a good example. The Padres playing all the time. I go to lots of Padres games, and after the game, I'll see videos on Instagram, be like, "Oh, the big fight broke out in section whatever at the game," and you see videos of it and stuff. Like, how I didn't see that when I was there.
I know,
but I don't want to be involved in what I do. I don't want to be in that middle of that mess with the kids and stuff. I don't be there for that.
Yeah.
And I can see that kind of deters people from going, especially like Raiders game. It's the whole thing. The Chargers-Raiders game is like notorious for fights.
That is, it's a risk.
But when I went there, I didn't have no problems at all. When I went there to the Raiders Stadium, no problems at all. But of course, where I was sitting, all Chargers fans. It was like whole Chargers crowd. It was like whatever. But I didn't see any of that stuff. Maybe I don't know. But I'm sure it does happen. And it happens at a lot of when places where people are like gathered and they have events and people.
And there's passion involved.
Right. Especially a passion project like your cool car that you spent money on and you're working on for years. You try to do something cool because you're all hyped up because everyone's there watching you, check you out, check me out. I'm going to do a burnout right now. And then you slide into a mailbox or whatever. I can imagine it. Hopefully it doesn't happen.
I got a hot take.
Yeah.
That I hope you allow me to have a slight soapbox moment here.
Please do. It's the Soapbox show, buddy.
This out.
Soapbox, go right ahead. Don't fall off of it. It's right there for you.
Yeah. Don't get on your soapbox and then fall off the side of it. But
don't crash like the Mustangs.
Yeah. But my take on this is that we all go to these car events. We enjoy cars. We particularly enjoy how cars sound. That's part of the experience of being at like a Cars and Coffee is you see something cool roll up, you hear it like rolling through the parking lot and parking or whatever. You like to hear like maybe a rev or two here and there, like nothing crazy. You don't have to be bouncing off the rev limiter or anything, but we all enjoy, like that's what we're there for. Like that's all part of the experience. And I feel like, I know there's a lot now where like, a lot of events now will post in their like, their advertisements, like no revving, no, no burnouts, no this, no that. And I 100% agree that like, doing a burnout at like an event, like there's really no situation where anybody really thinks that that's cool. Like,
what about the sideshows? That's all they do at the sideshows.
Well, but that's where I'm like, that's the sideshow mentality. And it's like, if that's what you're into, like,
okay,
you need
so
to go to a sideshow.
than the Cars and Coffee. So sideshows are different than Cars and Coffee.
That's, again, soapbox moment. Don't go to a car show. Don't go to a car show or a Cars and Coffee expecting it to be a sideshow. Like, and if you're the type of person that is going to them, that's trying to make a Cars and Coffee a sideshow, that's becoming part of the problem. Why people are like feeling like they have to, put no revving, no burnouts, like all of these things.
Well, let's make it clear that some people know, like there are some people that think when they go to a Cars and Coffee, they might think it is a sideshow just based on all the social media clips you see, and all the craziness and different things. And of course, movies don't help either, like the Fast and Furious and all that kind of stuff, people burning out and doing whatever.
But even even the early Fast and Furious, the thing that I was like, that I thought about, because it's funny you mentioned that, is that say take the first Fast and Furious, that whole racing scene and that they have kind of situated, again, they're doing this, they know it's illegal street racing. We can't necessarily condone that, but they know that this is an illegal street racing event. But this is what you're at the event for. They have the whole car show going on where people are showing people the 10K that they put on subwoofers in the back of their trunk and everything. But the actual race itself, in the first Fast and the Furious, is it's pretty defined that this is what's going on at this event. And when it comes to Cars and Coffee, in my opinion, you're going there to kind of be a part of the community, show off your car, your cool build or whatever, and check out other people's, meet people and things like that. But inherently, the event itself is not trying to advertise itself as a sideshow or as a burnout box event. If you want to do that, go out to Street Legal. They've been doing that actually over the last 3 months. They've been doing a legal takeover, they call it, where they just box off out in Paris, actually.
Okay.
Paris, California. They got I think it's 100 by 90, boxed off area, and you literally pay $30 and you can go out there and literally just spin the car, do donuts, do burnouts, and that's your zone for that.
It's boxed off so nobody can get close enough to get hurt.
Yeah. So they make sure they got the barriers up, and they make sure seating is away from it, and they got safety crews and things like that if anything were to happen. And this is a really controlled
Street
event.
Legal was the brand that did the racing at Qualcomm Stadium back in the day.
They did have that, and it's funny, because I remember taking the Z out there when I was in college, actually going to one of those events, and yes, so Street Legal now is they've been doing drag racing specifically. They're kind of quoted to be one of the shortest drag strips there is, because it's only 330 feet, but people have really enjoyed it because it's non-prepped. So, a lot of drag strips are they have a prep surface so that you get your ideal stickiness with the tires and get your ideal launch. But
you need slicks with that?
You don't have to. I mean, with a non-prep surface, if you have a good performance tire, you're usually able to grip pretty well and get a pretty good launch. But with a non-prepped surface, it's basically if you were just on the street. Be just on regular asphalt, even if you have a drag slick, you can still get a situation where you just get wheel spin because your tires just aren't prepped. They don't have any additional compound to get them to stick to the surface. But people like it because it's such a short track. You can get situations where say a slower car can actually beat out a faster car because they just get such a better launch.
Is that your secret, dude? Is that what you do over there?
I mean, I'm not winning stuff out there, so it ain't my secret.
I thought you were the killer over there. I mean, I heard, man, that Courage's N series car is a track killer over there, man. You're just dominating everything.
No, I have fun over there. I've gotten a couple little, kind of surprise wins here and there, but I just go over there for fun. I got to get out back to the track though, because that's where the end's really going to shine. But yeah, when it comes to drag strips, the end is definitely not a drag car, and there's way better platforms for that. But back to that original point is, you definitely got to just kind of know what is the event that you're going to, what are you there for? Are you there to be the guy that does a burnout and potentially puts some property in damage and honestly puts somebody at risk, or are you there to just kind of be a part of the culture, the community, and show off your car, be proud of it.
But, and I like the variety we saw today too. Like there was some trucks that were there, the older Bronco that was there.
I was gonna ask you, like, if you like what highlights, if you had to pick one or two cars
Vipers,
that really stood out.
I think here's the thing. Some of the cars I've already seen before. So I was saying, like, taking pictures. I first saw the car. They're pretty neat, pretty cool. I've seen them before. So they're cool. They've been there before. I think that red little Mustang was probably the hottest Mustang in the entire parking lot, if you ask me. It's the hottest car there, really.
Yeah.
Truth.
It was, like I said, it was the fact that you guys found out with such a great exterior and great interior.
And don't forget the engine bay, too.
The engine bay. Like, you usually don't find both. Like,
right.
Usually it's one or the other.
Other people I was talking to today, they were saying that, yeah, your Mustang looks like one of the better Mustangs that are here. I mean, obviously the Shelby is a different category. Not talking that, but like for that class, of Mustang, it's in really good shape considering it's a V6 and it's just, yeah, I mean, it looks great. We get it washed all the time and stuff. And like I said, his mom bought the car wash package. So you go unlimited car washes down the street from her house at this place. You just roll in there. You got to dry it off, but they do it for you. I mean, whatever, and it's unlimited. So you can go as much as you want, which I might do that for the truck one of these days. I keep thinking about that. Do you wash your car yourself or you take it somewhere?
I usually do it. Well, so we have one of those self-service kind of pressure wash, spots literally like down the street from the house. So I'll pressure wash it there and maybe do like the soap brush and kind of do that. But then I bring it back home and literally I'm like rewashing it. So I'll dry it, but then I'll like go back with like the, kind of the waterless, car wash solution and kind of redo it. So
yeah, I used to have all that stuff at the other house. We had the Z. I was telling Jacob, I had it's like a quick wash wax spray stuff. It's like a spray. I think McGuire's makes it. I forget who it does. But basically you spray it on, wipe it off like you do with Windex on a mirror or something like that. It's kind of the same concept. But it's like a wash and wax. And when it's all done, it literally looks like the car's been washed and waxed. And so if it's a quick wash or quick whatever, I used to do that a lot. Of course, I'd wash it with special soap I had and special mitts and all the stuff. And I had everything at the old house and the sprayer and all that stuff. And I would wash like every week, in the driveway, did my thing. And then, I had a clay bar to the system. I had a waxing the machine, like the rotary machine that did the waxing. I had one of those. And I had all the stuff. Then I always go nuts on this. I was cleaning it it was like cleaning the car became my hobby, literally on the Z. When I had the Z in the garage, I would constantly be cleaning that thing all the time. And then I even had one of those like dust buster, whatever they call them things too. You get all the dust off the thing because it collects a lot of dust. But I would constantly be going over that thing all the time. I was telling Jacob today, like maybe we'll get you some quick wax, quick cleaner. Which really comes in handy if you're like going to go to like a quick cars and coffee.
Yeah,
and
just to spray it down and
wipe it, make it look clean. I'm sure a lot of guys use that kind of stuff, something like that. There's lots of brands that make it. There's Car Guys or Chemical Brothers or whatever they are.
What
the hell they're called,
I love the cow. Yeah, you almost had it in both of those, but Chemical Guys.
That's what it is.
Car Guys.
Those Car Guys. That's a knockoff one called Car Guys.
Yeah,
but there's a bunch of McGuire's. Man, I'm a big McGuire's guy, McGuire stuff. But
shout out to Griots. Like I use those guys. Griots. They
nice.
They got some good stuff. But yeah.
So
no.
Speaking of cars, you said that you classified that you are not an EV guy because you don't drive an EV, but you like EVs. So what is happening in the world of EVs? This is a hot take. Courageous hot EV take. Go right ahead. Stage is yours, buddy.
This basically is should be a segment of the show. It's like Courage's hot EV takes. But I was on the Instagram earlier and I saw this. Actually, it was on YouTube, and GMC, but GM themselves posted a video basically highlighting a acceleration of kind of their sports cars. But what they did in this, they were actually kind of highlighting their EV, side of things. And so what they did was basically had like a lineup of some pretty crazy like supercars. They had like the Ford GT, the Ferrari, the latest Ferrari. It wasn't the 488, but it was one of the later like Ferrari models. A couple of like the Aston DBS and some other like crazy sports cars and supercars, and they lined them all up at this one racetrack speedway. And it was pretty clever how they did it, because they, even though you kind of knew what was going to happen, they filmed it. They basically had a Hummer EV as the filmer car. And they started the drag race right at the beginning of the video. And you're watching to see like, okay, who out of like all the supercars is going to win the race? And so, all of the cars take off and they all got different launch patterns. So it's pretty cool to see like who starts out behind, but who comes back just based on like their dynamics. And the Ferrari ends up being like the fastest out of that bunch. But then they like put a message over the screen and they say, it's like, well, like that's great and all, but let's see who the real winner was. And so they basically rewind the entire clip and they show the fact that the Hummer EV was the camera car and it beat all of those cars in a 0 to 60 dash pretty much every single time. And people in the comments, obviously there was a mixed bag. Like they're saying, yeah, EVs are like, EVs are killing all of these like supercars and all of this and everything. But the biggest glaring comment that I thought was interesting was that somebody said, hey, you notice that they didn't put the ZR1 in this race? And I thought it was interesting because, again, this was like a GM funded kind of advertisement. And because the Corvette is their, supercar in this realm, they know that it probably would have, gotten beaten by the Hummer EV as well. But they also know that people that are going to spend money on the ZR1 don't want to see an advertisement where they're advertising an EV beating this crazy supercar that they developed. So it was kind of a double-edged sword where it's like people thought it was cool because it was like, yeah, you got this big Hummer EV that's beating all these supercars, but they intentionally made sure that they didn't put anything that kind of hurt their sales on the GM side with putting the Corvette in it. And so Soapbox, I just thought it was an interesting marketing play at the end of the day, but it's the whole thing of like, EVs can win in acceleration all day. But I mean, do we really buy these supercars solely for the acceleration factor? I personally don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. It's the same reason why I would rather have a stick shift Z versus an automatic. The automatic, it's clearly faster. Even the new ones are much faster, 0 to 60. I think even mine, I think the automatic version was quicker, maybe like a fraction of a second quicker. I don't even know. It was quicker because, they can shift through quicker and things like that versus the stick shift. We're actually rolling the gears in the stick shift. But I think I still have to have a stick shift. Yeah. For me, it's all about the fun of it all. It's all about the experience. It's all about the journey, not the destination. Yeah. And so if you don't like road tripping, just take a flight or whatever. And if you don't like taking a flight, just take some NyQuil on the plane. Knock yourself out. You don't have to
you're like really erasing yourself from the whole process.
Correct. And there are people that do that. There are people literally that don't even care. They just get in a car, doesn't matter what it is, and just get straight to their destination. They might listen to music, podcasts, hopefully this one. That'd be super cool. Thank you so much. And then they just get to their destination and they don't even care about the car, about driving the car. If they could, they'd have a Uber driver just drive them for them, or even better, a Waymo.
There's a wave of people that just are like, they would honestly prefer if they could just have like a class pass to Uber and just be Ubered everywhere.
I got
not even have
tempted to do
bother
that.
Driving.
I know. I did some Ubering, and I know what it feels like because it gets very easy. You click the button, and it says be here in 3 minutes. Great. Hop in the car and then you go and you sit back. You either have a conversation with the person or you don't have a conversation. It depends. Usually I have a conversation with my Uber driver, but it depends. Usually they're pretty friendly, but I've had some ones who are just like, just shut up and just driving and they don't even, they're just like, delivering a package as far as they're concerned. They don't, care. But but it can be very tempting to just hop in and not have to think about like driving. So that's where for me, when I got my license and driving for me, it was all about having fun and driving for fun versus driving for work. Because I drive at work for work. So
Yeah.
It's like I don't like. I swear I drive for a living, but I don't really like driving like far, like driving to places.
Was funny too because I was talking to my brother. My brother actually is a truck driver as well. He doesn't do as much cross country, but he does a lot throughout California. He's in the Paso Robles area, and he was telling me how because he's he's behind the wheel of a truck, and he's gone for weeks at a time, going throughout all these different areas and stuff. He does when he has to go somewhere on his own, like he would love to just be chauffeured around. And I feel like when it's your job, like you probably are, you're probably maybe easier, it's easier to convince you to maybe give up that task of needing to drive yourself around.
Absolutely. I remember my ex-wife drove everywhere.
Yeah.
And she wanted to drive. I said, go right ahead. You want to drive everywhere? She drove everywhere. We went on a road trip, rented cars out of state. She always did the driving. And that's fine for me because I can be the passenger princess. I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. But I think for me, like driving for fun is something fun I like to do. Now, going back to your EV thing, talking about the EV stuff, I think it's the one party trick that EVs can do very well is acceleration, 0 to 60. They're fast, they're quick. Other than that, I mean, in the technology and they got the technology and all this stuff, and they're quiet and blah 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 whatever. Other than that, where's the fun in driving them? Like, where's the fun? I mean, now they got ones that have like mimicking like stick shifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they can
shout out to Hyundai.
they can mimic a stick shift. Like you're actually driving an EV, which has no actual like gears, and it could actually mimic like shift changes, like you're shifting a car. Okay.
The one consensus about that is that so many people have felt that was like, it was just like another gimmick. Like it was just something that, a company's trying to do this to like try and like, simulate something that's not really there. What the consensus seems to be that like people that have spent a long-term amount of time behind the wheel of like those like Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6Ns is it gets to a point where if you use that feature enough, you almost forget that like it's fake because they've just executed it so well.
Is there like a pressure plate and stuff? Like you have pressure on the clutch?
No,
so it's clutch or what?
So it's but it's more like a dual clutch. So it's not like
an automatic clutch, like a GTR kind of thing.
So because there's a lot of people that prefer say like a dual clutch automatic because like you're driving an automatic, but you have the paddle shifters, and so you have some control over your RPMs and things like that. And so some people prefer RPM? That over Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like, RPM with an EV technically like you don't have that, but the fact that they really R&D'd this to the point where they really like, people have said that they've gotten into it because there actually is like the same sort of resistance where say like in a regular, even a manual car where you rev it out and you're like close to red line and you let off the gas, you get a lot of resistance from the engine because the engine's sort of engine braking you down to like a lower RPM. They simulated that in like the Ioniq 5N where it actually feels like that. Like it's not, people have actually, they'll rev it all the way out and let off of the gas, and it actually like jerks you, forward as if like you did the same thing in a manual car. And so they've really like dialed this simulation in to the point where, like I said, there's journalists that have like spent like, extended track, usage with the car and have said like after like the third or fourth lap, I felt like I was driving an internal combustion car.
Wow.
And,
does it have like a sound it gives you too?
It does,
like match? Okay.
So it revs out like the same way that like a rev range would go. Like and when you hit red line, like it'll actually just bounce off the rev limiter like a manual car or like a DCT that you're hitting the rev limiter. So it's a weird thing where like, some people say like, why would you make an EV less, you would ruin the EV's performance by simulating this thing that is
I
like
don't
kind
think
of primitive.
care about the performance.
I think there's a certain point where, people that are really into cars as a passion like that and into driving, like they don't care about the performance. They want the experience. And if they can deliver an experience that none of these other EV car companies are delivering, like people are going to kind of gravitate to something like that.
Now, can you switch it off?
You can, yeah.
Oh, so you can make it back into regular, like grandma mode? You can just
go full grandma EV mode if you want.
Okay.
And, yeah.
That's the thing. So, that's kind of cool. I like toys that can kind of do both things, for example, if there was a car that theoretically, I remember like, other than paddle shifters, so I'm saying like a car that can have like a full clutch and a shifter and all, be a regular manual transmission, and then flip a switch and now it's like an automatic. Put it in D and go. The closest thing we have to that, I guess, is like the paddle shifters or whatever kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But
I'll throw one thing out there for you. I heard one company, I don't quite remember which company is looking at it, but there was one company that was looking at a way to basically connect an EV powertrain to a standard transmission situation where like the EV motor drives a clutch in the same way that a regular combustion engine drives a clutch, and then therefore has multi speeds so that you can basically shift an EV. They haven't figured it out yet because there's difference in an EV motor gives you instant torque. So it's weird that you would have to shift gears to get the same amount of torque in first gear as you would get in second gear. Like they're trying to figure out how to simulate all of that. But there are companies that are trying to figure out how to basically take an internal combustion engine, replace it with an EV engine, but then still give you the kind of connection point of a manual transmission. We'll see if it ever happens. But
you know why they're doing this, right?
Why is that?
Because no one's buying EVs. That's what,
yes.
No one's buying the EV in the standard traditional EV package. Yeah. And so
unless it's pure commodity based.
Right. You got those people. Yes. There are people who buy EVs, all day. And, because, that's what they want to drive. They want an iPad on wheels. I get it. Yeah. I get it.
But people that are actually enthused about cars, I won't even say an enthusiast, people that are enthused about cars, that just find some interest level in cars, to get them to pay a premium for an EV, I think a lot of people are finding out that that's a lot harder than they thought it was going to be. Except for the off-road space, I will say, I think the off-road space, they're starting to kind of gravitate more to the Rivian, for example. People really seem to enjoy Rivian as a brand. People are really excited about Scout, that.
I want a Scout. I think it's super cool looking. I think it looks super cool. It looks like a macho SUV truck. It looks like something. It almost like a Bronco, I guess. Kind of you know. It kind of sucks about only EV though, but it is what it is. EV is the future. I get it, but I don't know. By the time it comes out, we might forget all about it.
They've mentioned that they're delayed. That's another news story. Actually, they mentioned that they're delayed again.
No way,
bringing something out. So
I'll put my order in next year. But what happened?
Yeah, it's going to be the same situation of people that put orders in on Cybertrucks and had to wait 4 years before they actually got anything. It's probably going to be the same deal with Scout. But people still are excited. But, it doesn't help that they are getting delayed over and over again. And,
did they announce it 3 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? They announced the Scout.
Yeah, about that, 2 or 3. Yeah, about.
And
probably
I saw that. 3. I watched all the videos on YouTube, and I watched the little demos and all that stuff. I told my ex-wife at the time, I want one of these. This looks awesome.
Yeah.
If I was going to get an EV, I don't care about EVs, but if I was going to get an EV, this would be the EV I'd get. And I got super excited. I had that range extender where you could put gas in it and it extends. That's super cool. Check that. Why they all do that? It sounds like an amazing tool to have. They
just can't execute.
Well,
they just can't.
And they're being built here in America, and they bought some big factory they're going to work on in Alabama or somewhere, some big factory, south. I don't know, somewhere they built some factory, and they're going to work on the whole place and get all made here in America and be this whole thing. I'm like, yeah, let's do that, America.
Yeah.
Let's go off for the thing. The thing looks like a Raptor Bronco, big old tires. It looks like, go over and do anything. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. I dig it, but, at the end of the day, I guess it depends what people buy and where the money goes. And I think a lot of car companies are kind of shifting around, trying to figure out what people are buying and what people are not buying. And so it's like sports cars,
And that's the big thing is, and I'm sort of verifying this, just kind of by search, but Scout, I think, or VW owns like a, they own a portion of Scout.
Yeah, they do.
And one of the things that I've heard, and yes, I'm kind of stealing this news from another podcast, but I listen to all kinds of podcasts, but they talked about how, VW particularly has gotten burned multiple times and trying to get into like this EV space and having products that they put all this development in and then not doing well in the market. And people were saying that like partially that reason why they probably are delaying things and trying to figure out some different directions for Scout particularly is because Volkswagen, the parent group, is kind of worried about, again, just kind of putting themselves out there again and then having another product that just tanks. The VW bus, the Buzz, like, is not doing well. Well, maybe it's the old saying goes, it's not you, it's me, or it's not you, it's not me, it's them, but actually it's you the entire time, kind of a thing. The common denominator, yeah.
And by the way, go back to your comment about listening to other podcasts. I wasn't aware other podcasts exist. I thought this was the only show out there.
I forgot about that actually. Yeah, no, this is the only one out there. So
as far as I knew, it's the only podcast that exists in this world, really.
Yeah.
Of the 8 million that are out there or whatever.
But forget about that. Like,
right. But hey, man, Courage, this has been so fantastic meeting you today and hanging out at Cars and Coffee and having you on the podcast today, man. This has been great.
No, man, I enjoy it as usual. Always great to talk cars. And, like I said, for those that are listening, hopefully you guys enjoy and get out there and do some car things. That's my little motto.
And before you
get
head
out there and do car things,
let everybody know where they can find your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, The Driven Dad, the Driven Dad 22 will take you right to the YouTube and the Instagram, and got a lot of cool little plans and things going on. So feel free to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, Courage is like a big time YouTuber here. He's like big time. I'm like small potatoes. This guy over here is like Mr. Big Time on YouTube. Man, he knows all the stuff over there. He is working the algorithm. He's working the YouTube space like crazy.
Wait, let's just tell YouTube that so that they can start kind of pushing my content a little bit more.
You got to put it out there in the ether so everybody can know what's going on. So YouTube picks this up and knows that if you say YouTube like 15 times, it's like, look in the mirror and say YouTube like 15 times.
Yeah, it's like Freddy Cougar or whatever. Like it's
the YouTube algorithm, like little YouTube fairy pops up and says, hey, I can help you today. More views? I said, sure. Have a subscribers too. Sure, no problem.
I'll take that too.
While you're at it, I guess. While you're at it, why not? But until next time, you can head on over to coolcarswithchris.com and we'll see you on the very next episode.